So we are going to be at the. If you are in Los Angeles, and if you are a listener to Film Week, on which Tim and I also are on, we are going to be at the
Ace Theater Hotel,
doing our annual Academy Awards show for it's on the 17th,
February 17th, Sunday
the 17th,
Sunday before the big show,
and that will air Friday the 22nd. So yeah, we're gonna have fun there with all the rest of our Film Week colleagues, arguing and debating and getting into it. And who's gonna win Best Picture? I still feel like Green Book, man. I'd love for it to be Star is Born or The Favorite. I'd even be fine with Black Klansman, but I still feel like Green Book is that mushy Oscar movie that's,
it's that thing of where the whole Academy votes for that one.
It was. I mean, Rocky beat Network and All the President's Men.
Yeah,
Marty won in a year over Picnic and The Rose Tattoo, in which Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden and Blackboard Jungle weren't even nominated.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds of weird precedents for this, but yeah, we'll see. It just feels like that's going to happen, and it's just old school Oscar all over again.
Really, yeah, that'll be interesting.
Strange, but a few of the other categories might be worth talking about. Do we agree that Best Original Song is going to be Gaga?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The Gaga song is good.
Because she lost that last time when she was nominated for that. Her previous nomination didn't pan out. But yeah,
that one has. Look, there's no. What's the song in Coco? Not Coco. Well, actually, the song in Coco, and then the song from that ice animation about what was the one with the little girl who could turn everything.
Oh yeah. Let it go.
Frozen. Let it go. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they have a live Frozen show at Disneyland, which we haven't been to yet. I'm going to have to do that one of these days.
You are. You definitely are.
Visual effects, man. What do you think's going to take visual effects?
You got Black Panther, but you also have interesting.
No Black Panther.
No, I mean, it's Ready Player One.
Yes, Ready Player One. This is the one where they decided we're not. Black Panther got everything else, so we'll put Avengers: Infinity War in here
instead. Yeah.
Which also has Black Panther in it.
Yeah, which is nuts. But those movies are a bit of a mess. Ready Player One, I think, it'll be the one thing that movie will appeal to that Academy, the nostalgia element of the Academy.
I think you're probably
right.
I think you're probably right. Ready Player One is likely to do it. That's. Yeah, I mean, because the others are Solo Star Wars Story, Avengers: Infinity War. I don't think any. I mean, Christopher Robin. 3 of them are Disney movies, and then there's First Man, which is I don't really know why that's in there.
No.
Yeah. So sound mixing: Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, and Roma, and Star is Born.
First Man seems like that's the one where. Yeah,
pretty great sound.
If anybody's paying attention to the sound, really, it's extraordinary in that film. It's one of the more extraordinary things in that film.
Star is Born is good though, and that's that and Black Panther are the ones that are nominated for Best Picture here, so they're likely to get more votes. But Bohemian Rhapsody, it's good as well. And sound editing: Black Panther, Bohemian Rhapsody, First Man, A Quiet Place, and Roma.
Interesting.
Would that be weird if that went to A Quiet Place? Sound editing to A Quiet.
It's possible. It's funny because the theme of the movie and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the dumbest movies ever made. I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. Achievement in music written for the motion pictures original score nominees: Black Panther, Black Klansman, If Beale Street Could Talk, Isle of Dogs, Mary Poppins Returns. Now, of those top 3, it could be any of them. For me, I love all of those scores.
Beale Street,
but the Beale Street score sweeps. Some people say that it's a bit, it's a little loopy for them, and I'm like, you're not listening.
Yeah,
it's deeply moving. Although that Black Panther score is wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
Well, it's really interesting here. These are all, Mark Shaman's for Mary Poppins Returns. I'm not a fan of the movie. Mark Shaman, I get it. It's very old school, kind of Broadway Hollywood Mark Shaman
but
stuff.
Purposefully so.
Purposely so.
Yeah.
Desplat's Isle of Dogs score is Desplat. It's very modern, but it's very orchestral. It's very much what he does, and he's now sort of the new John Williams, it seems. But then you get into a really interesting area. What Bertel does in Beale Street, and Bertel also did Vice, and I couldn't give you a bar of music in Vice, but what Bertel does in Beale Street is it's sort of the jazz heartbeat of their souls, right? It's the opposite of what Blanchard does in Black Klansman, which is, it's broader,
Piercing.
epic jazz. It's piercing. It's of the period. Really kind of immerses you. It sets the world. It doesn't set their interior world. It sets their exterior
As
world.
opposed to Beale Street, which is all about that interior love. You can hear the love between these characters.
What Göransson does in Black Panther is, that's John Williams level epic kind of
incorporating all kinds of themes. Yet he does not do the thing of where, because it's a movie that's about a fictional African nation, he does not simply let that overwhelm the score, and thus everything sounds like it's from a Tarzan movie.
Yeah.
No, this is a beautiful, beautiful score. Timed beautifully with themes to character, and again, deeply emotional. I really loved it. Really, really loved it.
All right, let's wrap out on just 3: best doc, best foreign, and best animated. What do you think of? So go with doc first. Mr. Rogers not nominated.
Which is just so strange. Now I'm a big fan of Minding the Gap.
Yeah.
But that Mr. Rogers film that's my nomination. That's my win. So
for me it would have been On Her Shoulders, but that's not nominated either.
So that's I don't know.
Minding the Gap is good.
I don't get how that Mr. Rogers. Maybe it's because it's Spurlock. What's his name?
Morgan
Spurlock, and maybe they feel like they've been honoring him a little too much lately.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Minding the Gap certainly does seem to be the one that's likely to take that. Foreign language. Roma's almost certain to win.
Although Cold War.
But if Roma doesn't win, on the off chance that Roma wins Best Picture, that people decide they're going to do that on that long shot, we're going to have Roma Best Picture, not foreign language film. What takes this?
Cold War.
I agree.
It certainly is the one that deserves it. It's just absolutely.
I wouldn't be disappointed, however, to see. I mean, my favorite in this category is Never Look Away, the German film, but it's also 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And he also won this award last time with The Lives of Others. So, and Shoplifters won Cannes.
And Us.
And Us. It was Burning won LA Film Critics. We gave Shoplifter something else.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. I was thinking about the Amy Tan film, the documentary, the Amy Tan documentary.
And then it's Cold War. It's going to be Cold War, which won Best Director at Cannes, oddly enough. So then the other one is Capernaum, which from Lebanon, which is also a wonderful film. And animated. What's gonna? Is it? I mean, Incredibles 2 or Spider-Man?
The Spider-Man movie, oddly, because I think everyone agrees that, despite the fact that we were pretty sure we were going to be handing that award over to The Incredibles 2, that everyone agrees that the Spider-Man, and they say it like that. They're like, I think that Spider-Man movie's better. Like they're shocked. It's like that was better, right? Yeah, it actually was better. Like, okay, I thought so.
Well, that's the thing. We've been to The Incredibles before, and it won the Oscar.
Yeah.
And it's a really good movie, and my daughter loves it. But when people walked into that Spider-Man movie, they were floored. And part of it is because nobody expects a Marvel cartoon to be very good. Part of it is also because it's Marvel. And part of it is also because Spider-Man movies have been sucking for so long.
Yeah. Ironic.
That nobody expected this to be the best Spider-Man movie of all time.
Ironic that the best Spider-Man movie of the last 6 Spider-Man movies is the cartoon. And it's the way it's put together, that sort of ethnic sort of cast. And the animation, the way it's cut, the way it moves, that soundtrack, it's really, really an exciting, captivating movie.
Charles, our dear friend and Film Week colleague, Charles Solomon, who is the animation guru, he said it perfectly. He said it revels in the joy of being drawn, which I thought was a beautiful way of putting it. So, all right, we're going to get down to it. We got a lot of classic stuff left over from last week, and much of it is from Kino. I want to start off just popping through some of these things that might be off your radar. We've got Memories of Me with Billy Crystal, Alan King, and Jo Beth Williams. Jo Beth Williams, where did you go? This was directed by none other than Henry Winkler. This was a 20th Century Fox movie, and it kind of belongs very much to that 1980s moment. And it's a sweet movie. It's a sweet movie. I prefer, there are kind of these. it's one of these father and son things, like Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason in Nothing in Common.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of one of those. But what's nice about this is Alan King's performance more than anything. Written by Billy Crystal and Eric Roth, by the way, the great Eric Roth, who of course wrote Forrest Gump. It's just Alan King does a really wonderful job here. He's just really, really wonderful, and he plays the part just beautifully. He gives Billy Crystal a lot of room. He knows exactly what to do, and it's a lovely, lovely performance. Yeah. So if you love Alan King, you're gonna love the movie. Yeah. We also have Split, 30th anniversary edition. This was kind of a bizarre movie that a lot of people didn't see. This came out in 1989. Definitely a kind of a fringy, culty movie. This has an extended cut here. I don't know that anybody was sufficiently familiar with the film at the time that they will know exactly where these 20 extra minutes are. Like if you were to watch the 104-minute version versus the 84-minute version, I don't like. If let's say you saw the 84-minute version back in '89 and then you watch the 104-minute version now, I don't think anybody's going to go, "Oh my gosh, that scene!
That's the new stuff.
That's the new stuff." I don't know that you're really going to. No, this is kind of a low budget sci-fi thing. Takes place in a dystopian future, and deals with the threat of trans-dimensional fascists and this one Luke Skywalkerian hero named Starker, who is he's basically like a homeless lunatic. It's a really weird movie. And it's really kind of on the edge, but it's out on Blu-ray now from Verboten Video, and it's called Split, and it is a cult film. And if you haven't heard of it, you might want to check it out. But it's definitely on the weird edge.
Not to be mistaken with the M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, we talked about Tobe Hooper last week, and we got another Tobe Hooper movie, Spontaneous Combustion, which is terrible. He directed this in 1990, and Tobe Hooper just really kind of only had one good movie in it, and that was Poltergeist.
In that genre of movie, kind of went away.
Yeah, but anyway, it's got its moments. It's just not great. And then he wrote and directed this, and he was kind of still trying to be relevant. But after Poltergeist, he just didn't. Basically, Spontaneous Combustion with Brad Dourif is the star, and John Cryer's in it as well. John Cypher, not John Cryer. John Cypher. People burst into flames. It is what it is. It's not good. Dennis Hopper directed a movie called The Last Movie in 1971, which did not quite do what Easy Rider did. It's a weird career of his, isn't it, Hopper?
Yeah, particularly on that side of the camera.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Blu-ray release of The Last Movie, which it's essentially an inside Hollywood thing about a Hollywood production that's making a Western in Peru, and he plays a stuntman by the name of Kansas, and kind of does a man called horse deal in this. When they're done shooting, he sort of stays behind and tries to. I don't want to say goes native, because it's not quite what this is about. But he's looking for something in Peru that he doesn't find in the rest of his life, and this winds up going into a very weird kind of man called horse direction, and it's almost an Apocalypse Now direction, which is why it's also weird that he showed up in Apocalypse Now. But it just doesn't quite work. It's a beautiful restoration. It's a really ambitious show. They have a 1971 interview excerpt with Dick Cavett and a whole bunch of really interesting stuff from the archives of the film. 30-minute documentary portrait of Dennis Hopper, but. For some reason, it just doesn't click. It's almost like he was trying too hard to replicate his success from Easy Rider. Very unfortunate. Karate Kid Part 3 and The Next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. That's right, Hilary Swank was once upon a time The Next Karate Kid. There's a double feature of these from Mill Creek on Blu-ray. Look, Karate Kid Part 3 is not very good. The Next Karate Kid is really not very good at all either. But if you are a completist, you may want to pick that up just so that you have all of your Karate Kid stuff. And while we're on the subject, Double Dragon is part of the MVD Rewind collection, and it comes in that kind of faux retro VHS thing where they're trying to sort of make you feel like, hey, it's really nostalgic. Is that a sticker like we used to get on our VHS thing? Oh no, it's part of the cover art. Isn't that clever? It's not a sticker. It won't come off.
Soon no one will know what that is.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's for people from our generation. So look, this has people in it that no one today will know unless you grew up in this era.
Mark Dacascos.
Mark Dacascos. Alyssa Milano is still in the news. Yeah, but Mark Dacascos was the man for a long time in these kinds of movies. And even showed up in The Brotherhood of the Wolf, the French film, playing a Native American.
Yeah, not bad either.
So, not bad. So, but this was one of those martial arts movies from the 1980s and early 1990s era, and it's all right. It's it's based on a video game, and if you played the video game, you'll probably get a kick out of the movie. If you didn't play the video game, if you weren't into martial arts, you wouldn't really care at all.
Robert Patrick, I guess people might have recognized him coming off of because he played the Liquid the Terminator in Terminator 2.
Yep.
So lead for him.
The very powerful and popular Martin Sherman play Bent was made into a movie directed by Sean Matthias, and Film Movement has this on Blu-ray now. This is an NC-17 rated bruiser of a movie, and it's really, really tough to watch. In many respects, I think it goes overboard. It's one of Clive Owen's best performances. It's sort of what put Clive Owen on the map, to be honest. This is from 1997. And it is a really, really, really tough movie to watch. It earns every single bit of its NC-17 rating. It all takes place in pre-war Germany, and it's a Holocaust film. The Holocaust before the war actually began, when everything is just really, really when Germany thinks they're getting away with it, basically. And boy, it's just tough to watch. I won't tell you anything about the cast. I'll tell you only who's in it: Clive Owen, Ian McKellen, Lothar Bluto, and Mick Jagger. All of them are excellent, but it's such a tough movie to watch. There are times where you feel like it's a little too much. And then we've also got Topper. The Topper movies are a lot of fun. If you are a fan of the Topper movies, which is, of course, the old supernatural, mischievous ghost Topper movies, there's Topper Returns and Topper Takes a Trip. These are fine. They're, not quite the same as the original Topper, but these are from VCI, who has always done really wonderful stuff with their classic catalog.
That's the Joan Blondell and
Constance Bennett. I mean, these are fun.
As opposed to Cary Grant and.
Yes. That's why it's like the B team, right? But still, the whole concept of Topper is fun, and it's worth checking out. And if you are a Topper completist, you're going to want to add those as well. And then just a few more here, and then I'll turn it over to Tim to dive into some new stuff. Méliès Fairy Tales in Color from Flicker Alley. Is a whole bunch of retinted Méliès stuff from 1899 to 1909, 10 years worth of Méliès genius, all of it retinted as he did at the time, because he hand colored a lot of this stuff.
Méliès, of course, being the principal subject of Scorsese's movie Hugo, played by
Ben Kingsley.
Ben Kingsley,
yeah. And Méliès, obviously one of the great pioneering figures in the history of movies, and so this is a wonderful, wonderful release from Flicker Alley and the Black Hawk Films collection of David Shepard that really highlights the Méliès genius probably as well as anything has since ever. Frankly, I mean, it's most of the time we're watching Méliès in just black and white, or maybe kind of sepia toned, but when you really add all the colors back in, when it's shown the way that Méliès intended for it to be seen, now you're feeling the soul of the man a little bit. It's not just his technique. It's very special.
All of the elements are there as he intended. It's a different thing.
Laurel and Hardy Comedy Collection is not a complete Laurel and Hardy set. It's just a collection of shorts and features and various other things. Some of them have just Laurel. Some of them have just Hardy. So it's in the wake of the recent movie with John C. Reilly and what's his name?
Phoenix.
no, the
Not from the brothers, sisters, or the sisters,
no,
brothers.
John C. Reilly and
It's Stan and Ollie from. So that'd be Steve Coogan.
Stephen Coogan. Thank you.
Steve Coogan.
Blanked on Coogan for a
Which
minute.
is another movie that's wasn't those performances in that movie didn't quite make the
But the movie, it got a little bit of attention.
I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed the performances. I thought John C.
here.
might have actually gotten
And the
some of
women.
those.
And the women.
The women were actually the best thing in that movie.
Yeah. So anyway, you get a lot of nice little shorts here, stuff that is fun. Flying Deuces is very, very famous and popular. So is Utopia. There's some Stan Laurel home movies here. Then you got stuff like Hop to It, Bellhop, The Hobo, Mud and Sand. There's some fun stuff. But what's interesting is seeing the solo short films that they made without each other. That's where you really kind of get a sense of why they needed each other. And it's not that the films aren't good; they're just different. And then the last couple here, really quickly, Henry Fonda and Joan Bennett in I Met My Love Again. This is from Classic Flicks. This is a 1938 film. It is only on DVD, not on Blu-ray. It is. It's not a great movie, but it's nice to see a young Henry Fonda and a young Joan Bennett kind of working out their acting chops, and at a very, very young early age, 1938. It's a nice film for people who are fans of these two performers to sort of see them really flexing their early acting chops. And then a couple from Shout Select. Suburbia, the Penelope Spheris film, which was sort of her last great film before she sold out and started making stuff like Little Rascals. I just don't understand the trajectory of her career at all. But Suburbia is really great. It looks at the punk scene in L.A. in 1980s, and I know that scene well. And man, does she capture it! Just nails it. And there's an audio commentary.
Her film before that, The Decline of Western Civilization, was it was sort of all about that whole punk scene.
Oh, it is.
So it was like her thing.
This was her thing. I don't
And
know
then
why she
Little
walked
Rascals,
away.
yeah.
It's weird. And then Little Rascals and lots of bad adaptations of TV shows. But she does an audio commentary here solo, and then she does another audio commentary with her producer and actress Jennifer Clay. And this is from Shout Select. It is a wonderful transfer, and it is just a rock solid movie. It has live performances in it from a lot of punk bands at the time, like TSOL, who I used to see their the kids I went to school with would write TSOL, like graffiti it. They'd etch it into desks. You'd sit down at a desk in English class, and the day before it was clean, and then suddenly somebody carved TSOL in it because they're punk, man. You're like, what 14-year-old brat would do that?
At least come up with your own tag, man.
Yeah, exactly. And then lastly, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which has gone on to be a Broadway hit, and now there's going to be a female version of it. And
what's funny is the movie wasn't very good.
Here's the thing about it. Frank Oz had a way with directing comedies at this time. What About Bob and A Little Shop of Horrors and a lot of other things. And the only reason this works is because Steve Martin and Michael Caine know that this is just a ridiculous movie, and they're milking it. They're
doing shtick all the way through it.
They're doing shtick all the way through it, and that whole thing with "not mom," it just it's so overboard. But for some reason, the 3 or 4 moments that are funny are really funny, and the rest of the movie you just got to suffer through. Co-written significantly by Dale Launer. Dale Launer, who had a moment where his real claim to fame was the screenplay for My Cousin Vinny. So Dale Launer was a real comedy guy for a moment there in the 90s in particular, but I just don't know what happened to him since. So
you going?
Let's go for it.
Newish kind of stuff. The Boy Down, some indie business here. The Boy Downstairs. Which is an interesting little sort of Tribeca Film Festival fave back in 2017, directed by Sophie Brooks. Zoysa Mamet, who's, So the interesting notion in this movie is a young woman who has its boyfriend, dumps him, moves away. She's gone for several years, moves back to New York, and inadvertently moves into the apartment directly above her former boyfriend.
Yeah.
And wacky hijinks ensue. It's a neat sort of notion, actually, and this movie is actually rather good, romantic and funny sometimes. Behind the scenes photo gallery and theatrical trailer on the Sophie Brooks film. A Private War, another film that I think we thought that maybe we might be talking about. Rosamund Pike, maybe.
This
playing Mary Colvin, the very famous war photographer, famously loses her eye and
wore the eye patch. And,
wore the eye patch, trudges on to something.
Interviewed Muammar Gaddafi very famously, and really a legendary figure.
Yeah.
This is. I have really mixed feelings about this movie because it's so well made.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really well made, and her performance is about as good as you can do for a woman who's a bit impenetrable.
Matthew Heineman directing.
Yeah, he does a really good job, and I hope he gets other gigs. But the thing is, it's just not a very interesting movie.
Yeah.
It's just she goes here, she goes there, she gets
and
shot.
frankly, she's not a very likable character. I mean, the character who she's playing this real person, so I say character. So she's playing the character as the human was.
Yeah,
the human was kind of an ass.
Yeah, it's true.
Unfair. Because if it were a male character played the exact same way, I probably wouldn't have said that.
It's true. So, I just wish it were. There are just a few things that you could fix to make that a really interesting script, and they didn't do it.
And we'd be talking about it now.
Yeah.
Bernie the Dolphin, a cute little family film about these kids down in Florida who find this baby dolphin who's sunburnt, and basically it's a kid in their dolphin movie. That's what it is. It's like any other kid in their animal movie, but it is sweet. Something we'll enjoy with the family. Behind the scenes featurettes on that Bernie and the Dolphin. Neat little movie. The Grinch, man. This movie just rubbed people the wrong way in every possible way.
This was another case where we took my daughter because she loves the Grinch, and she's never seen the Jim Carrey one. She's only seen the original animated Chuck Jones, which is genius because it's the genius of Dr. Seuss and Chuck Jones brought together. And it's a classic. It's a holiday classic, and it's a half an hour, and it's boom, and you're in and you're out.
Simple, flat 2D animation.
That's it, and wonderful, wonderful narration from Boris Karloff. It's like three geniuses at once: Boris Karloff and Chuck Jones and Dr. Seuss, and it all came together, and that's why it endures. And in this, they went and they got Benedict Cumberbatch to do an American accented Grinch that's like not memorable.
No.
And I just don't. And it's too long, and they round the story out with all kinds of stuff.
They give Cindy Lou Who dialogue. Cindy Lou Who was like 2. She didn't do any dialogue. And they sort of pump up the dog story, and of course there's the extremely highly resolved 3D animation, none of which I liked. This though is packed with all kinds
4K.
of stuff. 4K, yeah, it's packed with just about everything you can possibly think of on it. There. Aircraft carrier, Guardian of the Sea, 21st century. It's just a doc about the amazing thing we call the aircraft carrier.
Yeah, which is an amazing thing. You've been on them.
Oh, I was stationed on the Enterprise.
You were stationed on the Enterprise?
I was stationed on the Enterprise when it came out of San Diego.
What year was that?
1980.
So in 86. In 86. I toured the Enterprise.
Oh, yeah.
because I was living in Toulon in France, which is a port, and the French will have their aircraft carriers, which look so impressive until the Enterprise comes in, and it's like the United States. It's like the United States coming in and showing off, and like, hey, here we go, we're American, and you realize, oh my gosh, that French aircraft carrier is puny. It's like putting a bicycle next to an 18-wheel truck.
Oh, there were 3,000 people on that aircraft.
But
on our aircraft
it was we met
5,000.
We met a bunch of the we go to this little tavern down the street to watch World Cup games, and met that was the year that freaking Argentina beat Germany in the final. Hand of God, Maradona, and met some of these shop stewards from the Enterprise, and they were like, "Hey, come on down." So they invited us on to, and that's where I saw Better Off Dead with John Cusack. Because they got all the early movies, right? Because that's one of the things Hollywood.
An aircraft carrier is like a city.
It's unbelievable.
Very often you could be on an aircraft carrier for a long time. I wasn't on the aircraft carrier long because I was actually just escorting a bunch of F-16. So I was actually in the Air Force. I was in the Navy. I was in the Air Force, but I was attached.
Yeah.
And you could be on that aircraft carrier for weeks, right? And then you go into port someplace. We went into Busan.
Yeah.
And you get off the carrier and you're roaming around the city and you meet people.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, what boat are you on? I'm on the Enterprise. You're like, you are? I'm on the Enterprise. I've been on the Enterprise for 3 months. I've never seen. But you could do that. You could spend a tour on that boat and never meet everybody.
It was mad. I mean, we got the full tour of it. The whole couldn't go up deck because it's too dangerous. They don't let you go up top.
Yeah, that's where the catapults for the
it's off limits. It's super hoop. Like people get severed in half if a cable snaps, it'll cut your body in half. But it's really dangerous up there. But we were on the deck below where the planes are before they lift them up on those giant elevators. And the thing I didn't realize is that there are like 10 basketball courts, full-sized basketball courts down there, so that if the planes move, you can pull down these basketball hoops, and you can have like a whole a full-sized game there. Yeah. It's crazy.
Because fighter jets take up a lot of space.
It's amazing. So I mean, it's a
great documentary, by the way. I mean, seriously, a aircraft carrier is a marvel of engineering.
Yeah,
a floating city is what it is.
Well, I want to go through all this Kino stuff now, because Kino has just, man, they keep getting great stuff, and there's one here in particular, well, there's a couple I want to be say some very special things about. But first off, they keep releasing all this great DePatie Freeling animation. That's of course the like the Pink Panther stuff, but there's a lot of great other ones too. And they now have the volume 2 of that, which includes Sheriff Hoot Kloot, The Dogfather, The Blue Racer, Mr. Jaw, and Crazy Legs Crane. These are the things. And Mr. Jaw, of course, is probably the most famous outside of Clouseau and the Pink Panther. But this is great stuff. It really is fun, and most people don't know all of these necessarily. They only know the Pink Panther stuff. So it's nice to discover all of that. And that's all been released before, but it's now boxed into a volume 2. And then, as far as the Pink Panther stuff, continue to get it on Blu-ray. Fantastic. I just hope they put this all into a box set, a complete box set at some point, because this may be the end of this year, because it would be great. Really, really great to have all of this finally. We've got a volume 3 and volume 4 now of the Pink Panther cartoons. Volume 3 covers 1968 to 69. Volume 4, 1971 to 75. And there are some really, really terrific shorts here. The Pink Panther shorts are so good. And this is when, UA was a giant in the world of animation. Yeah. It totally captures that 60s and 70s period. And in Blu-ray, it has never looked sharper or more colorful. It is just absolutely beautiful. My favorite, I think 3 of my favorite Pink Panther cartoons are here. On volume 3, they've got G.I. Pink. Pink is a mini splintered thing. And Think Before You Pink. And then the other 2 that I really like that are from the later period are Pink Streaker and Pink Blue Plate. So those are really, really fun. They're on these 2 volumes, and highly, highly recommended. As for Kino's other stuff, this is a box set that is so perfect for the moment, and cannot highly recommend it enough, because it's everything on here is deserving. Pioneers, first women filmmakers. Everyone seems to be ignorant of the fact that some of the earliest, most successful filmmakers in Hollywood, screenwriters, directors, were women, and did amazing, amazing work in the silent period in particular. This covers 1911 to 1929 and the work of people like Lois Weber.
I got to tell you, I actually teach a course on that.
Yeah.
And it blows people away when I start talking about and showing them Lois Weber there, who by the Cabbage Patch Fairies.
Yeah.
That scene she does, 1920 whatever. She's butt naked in this thing, right? Which is extremely daring.
Yeah.
Alice Guy Blaché, a little French Peruvian filmmaker who was there with the actual Lumiere brothers.
Yep.
On that train platform, when they filmed that train coming into the station at Lyon, which is some of the very first footage ever filmed with a film camera, Alice Guy Blaché was right there. If I know women, she probably told them, you know what, you probably want to put that camera over here. That's how,
for sure. They've got Grace Cunard, Alla Nazimova, Mabel Normand, by the way, who, Mabel Normand was the one that schooled Charlie Chaplin at the very, very beginning. I mean, gave him
her timing was
impeccable. It's a wonderful box set. 25 hours worth of stuff here. You get a booklet as well. It is absolutely wonderful. Ruth Ann Baldwin, figure probably a lot of people have never heard of. Elsie Jane Wilson, who made The Dream Lady. Ida Mae Park, who made Bread. These are all really, really significant figures. Frances Marion, Song of Love. Frances Marion, just another really legendary figure.
A number of Asian women, more than a few black women, also show up much earlier than you would think. Anyway, in this sort of Me Too movement where we're talking about women directors coming back to the fore, it is worth it to be reminded that women were in some of the most important positions in cinema at the beginning of cinema. Yep. So there you go.
So now we're going to roll through the rest of the studio classics that Kino has released recently, and the first one I want to get into is Cabin Boy. Yeah. Now, Cabin Boy, I saw this with my wife and my sister-in-law, and we all thoroughly enjoyed just how ridiculously stupid it is. This is the Chris Elliott movie. It kind of ended Chris Elliott's film career.
I'll say
it's just dumb.
And David Letterman's. I think that's the only movie he ever appeared in.
But what is important about this? What's really important about this movie is this: this is the year for which David Letterman hosted the Oscars.
Yeah.
That's why David Letterman hasn't been back. I still thought he did a great job.
Yeah.
But he
was no Johnny Carson.
The best part of that Oscar show was the "Do you want to buy a monkey?" Because there's a scene in here. David Letterman's scene in here is a totally hammy scene where he says, "Do you want to buy a monkey?" And then, in order to make fun of himself, he did a montage of all of these actors reading that line. And I think it has Patrick Stewart in there saying, "Do you want to buy a monkey?" And the only one I really remember is Martin Short screaming it, "Do you want to buy a monkey?" He's yelling at the top of his lungs. I laughed so hard. I was in tears. In tears. No one else thought it was funny. But anyway, Cabin Boy.
You had to have seen the movie.
Here's what they did. They did the artwork up on this slipcover. They gave it a slipcover, which is great. Same artwork as what's underneath. But the slipcover has kind of a classic Captain's Courageous 1940s artwork on it. And it's done like a classic old movie. And it says, Chris Elliott, Cabin Boy, the contentious classic that angered a nation. Anyway, loads of extras here. Audio commentary with director Resnick, Adam Resnick, and Mike Sachs and Chris Elliott. Also an interview with Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick, and archival cast interviews from the EPK and audition tapes, and some fun stuff. Andy Richter's audition tape is actually quite.
Of course, Chris Elliott had been running around the David Letterman show forever.
And his dad is Bob Elliott of Ken and Bob, the legendary radio duo. So. That's a lot going on. Here's a weird one. The Great Scout and Cat House Thursday. This is such an odd movie. I had forgotten this even existed. This is from 1976. It did not do particularly well at the time. Directed by Don Taylor, written by Richard Shapiro, with a cast that you would think is to die for. Lee Marvin, Oliver Reed, Robert Culp, Elizabeth Ashley, Strother Martin, and Sylvia Miles in The Great Scout and Cat House Thursday. So it's kind of a Western oddity is what this is, and it takes place in 1908, kind of the end of the Western period, but it's still, in Colorado, 1908 is sort of still the Wild West. It's the end of the frontier, one might say. And boy, it's really bizarre. It's
part Cat Ballou,
part
Lee Marvin also,
part Treasure of the Sierra Madre, a little bit. Yeah, it's a weird.
Young Kay Lenz in that movie. I love stuff like that.
Sonny and Cher in Good Times, directed by directed this?
No,
William Friedkin.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Well, you know what?
Everybody always forgets that.
Something to be said for the,
1967, William Friedkin, 4 years before he would win an Academy Award for directing The French Connection. That was 73, so that was 6 years. 6 years before he would win an Academy Award for directing The French Connection. Did a job for hire, man. He directed this utterly weird Sonny and Cher movie that has no business existing. It's true. It's just a silly movie. It's just a silly swinging 60s groovy.
He's walking around in that fur sort of.
Yeah, look, they're trying to do for Sonny and Cher what the Beatles movies did for the Beatles. Yeah. That's what they're trying to do, and it doesn't really work, but it's an oddity, and people are fond of it. The Trip to Bountiful won an Academy Award for Geraldine Page. Rebecca De Mornay is also wonderful in this, as is John Hurd. Look, it's a wonderful movie. It's just a wonderful movie, and it's a classic. It still survives. I don't know why director Peter Masterson hasn't gone on to have more of a career. It really relies on the writing of Horton Foote, who did a screenplay from his own play, and it's just a sweet. It's about an old woman, on an essential kind of last life journey, and Geraldine Page deservedly
There's a moment there when those movies were a thing, and you had that, and in Whales of August, and even to a certain extent, I suppose Driving Miss Daisy was quite lovely.
Gold is a bit of a weird Roger Moore, Susanna York movie with Ray Milland and Bradford Dillon and John Gielgud in it. This is a kind of in 1974 thing for Roger Moore to do between Bond films, really. He was still James Bond at that time, and he was very popular doing it, but he wanted to do other stuff, so he went and he worked with the director of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Peter Hunt, to do a movie, basically a conspiracy thriller set in South Africa, centered around gold. And it's fine. It's very dated. Moore is cool and suave, and Susanna York is beautiful, and I don't really know what else there is to say about it.
He got the sweat in that movie. Unlike in the Bond movies.
I love Trapeze.
Oh, yes.
I love Trapeze. Burt Lancaster, Tony Curtis, and Gina Lollobrigida. Look, it's a soap opera set against the world of circus trapeze artists. And
1956, man.
I saw this thing 100 times when I was a kid, over and over and over. And there's so much of this that winds up in other movies. I think they even use footage of this in The Artist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All that trapeze stuff was taken from this, I believe, and they just did some, face replacement and a few other things. But there's a lovely CinemaScope melodrama from '56, the same year as the King and I. Was it the King and I in '56 or '55? Anyway, at least the Ten Commandments. Ten Commandments was '56.
Carol Reed.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff from that period. And Carol Reed, does a great job with this, and would of course go on to win an Oscar for Oliver, and also did The Third Man. Great British director. But this is fun, and there's an audio commentary by film historian Kat Ellinger, and the color is fantastic. Let's just blow through the last few here really quickly. Once Upon a Crime is a not very good comedy, but it's got a little bit of nostalgia to it because it was directed by Eugene Levy and produced by Dino De Laurentiis. So it's a bit of an SCTV reunion comedy that doesn't quite work. But you know what? Screenplay by Charles Shire and Nancy Myers. And it's got John Candy and Sean Young and Ornella Muti and Richard Lewis and George Hamilton, and it's Sybil Shepherd. It's kind of a movie of its era. It doesn't really work, but
it's kind of a movie out of its era. Actually, it's a little late even for its day.
Yeah,
but Eugene Levy is funny. So
very, very funny. So real quickly here, let's see. A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die is a Robert Ryan movie, kind of a spaghetti western thing that was made in 1968 by Italians. Franco Giraldi was the director. Never heard of him. Arthur Kennedy and Alex Cord are in this thing. It is what it is. I don't really know what the appeal is, but if you're a fan of spaghetti westerns, you'll probably love it. Rita Tushingham and Lynn Redgrave in the fantastic Smashing Time, which is the movie that inspires the all of the Austin Powers movies probably more than anything. This really captures that whole Haight-Ashbury funky moment more than anything else. 1967 London. And Rita Tushingham, for crying out loud. We love Rita. She's the best. The knack and how to get it and all the rest of that fun stuff. So this is really a very, very fun. Kat Ellinger does another audio commentary here that's very, very good. And, it's a moment in time. Really great score, by the way, by John Addison. And a lot of fun. Carlo Ponti produced that. Coming right off of Dr. Zhivago. Bat 21 with Gene Hackman and Danny Glover.
Did the junket for that.
Did you like this?
No,
I didn't either.
Yeah, the Vietnam era movie.
Yeah, it's just another one.
And helicopter pilots and pilots and this whole.
It's kind of like Air America was. Yeah. This and Air America are kind of doing the same thing, and I don't know that either of them are all that good. But
quirky Vietnam stories.
Peter Markle directed that. And then The Farmer's Daughter, a David O. Selznick movie with Loretta Young and Joseph Cotten and the wonderful Ethel Barrymore from 1947. This doesn't age terribly well, but it's still got a moment. Lee Gambon, film historian, does the audio commentary, and it's, it got Loretta Young an Academy Award for Best Actress. I don't know that it really ages that well, but Joseph Cotten is in it. He's lovely as well. It's a sweet movie, produced by the great Dory Sherry, one of the great all-time Hollywood producers. And then here are the two that I really, really want to go to town on. Sylvester Stallone and Oscar.
1991.
Last great movie directed by John Landis.
Yeah,
this is a great
for that.
movie.
And that movie is much funnier than people give it credit for.
So
it didn't do that
funny.
well at the time. Dolly Parton, Sylvester Stallone.
Tim Curry wipes me out in this movie. He is so funny as that doctor. Yeah. That ridiculous doctor. He is so funny. Stallone is funny.
Stallone is hysterically funny in this movie. It's just funnier than people give it credit for being.
He's just so wonderful. I mean, everything about this movie is so charming. And what a great cast. Ornella Muti plays his wife.
Ornella Muti, actually, that's who I was thinking.
She is fantastic.
Rhinestone is the one he did with Dolly Parton.
Chaz Palminteri is really, really good. Yvonne DiCarlo even shows up in this thing, believe that or not.
Yeah. Donna Beachy.
It's just great. Kirk Douglas plays his dad.
Eddie Bracken is in this freaking movie, dude.
It's unbelievable. I mean, everybody is in this movie. It's just it's so much fun, and I just love this movie. I love everything about it. It's really, really fun. It's really worth checking out. Vincent Spano, is charming. I just love everything about this movie. It's a classic French farce, is what it is, and it's beautifully staged, and everybody in it just nail it. It's beautiful. The last one, Blame It on the Bellboy.
Oh yes.
Now here's why I'm going to really say something about this movie. So Blame It on the Bellboy is a silly comedy starring
Bronson
Pinchot,
Dudley Moore.
And a bunch of other people, Richard Griffiths and Patsy Kensit and Brian Brown, and it's got a rather significant cast. But it's about the chaos that this bellboy causes in the lives of all these various people. And what's great about it is that it understands that it's paying homage to Jerry Lewis's The Bellboy, and at the same time kind of riffing on things like It's a Mad, 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 Mad World and a lot of these other things. It understands its lineage. This was one of the first films in 1992 that I actually reviewed for Entertainment Today, where we met.
Yeah.
And I gave it a great review. And I still love this movie. I still think it's funny and silly and delightful and hilarious. Mark Herman, great British director, directed this. Everyone else wrote and directed this, panned the daylights out of this movie. Suddenly, I don't get mail in Entertainment Today. I got mail in Entertainment Today. Wade Major, critic, Entertainment Today. Okay. Open up the mail. I'm working there as an associate editor as well. Yeah. And the job you turned down because you were smart. and I open this mail. And it's a letter from Mark Herman thanking me for appreciating and understanding his movie. And this was the first time I've gotten a few since. And that was the first time that had ever happened to me. And I thought, directors do that? They write letters to film critics? Why don't I'm going to review more movies positively.
I've only gotten the ones where they had something really pissy to say about what I said about their movie. I got those.
It was very, very special. And I still stand by this movie. It is so much maligned. It's finally on Blu-ray. Blame It on the Bellboy. Bronson Pinchot, Dudley Moore. Incredibly funny movie. Beautiful, slapsticky, just lovable silliness. Mark Herman would go on to direct things like Little Voice. Brassed Off. Still a very, very good director. And
The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I think, was his maybe 10 years ago.
So like Mark Herman really nailed it with this movie. Distinguished director who did a really wonderful comedy at a point in time when people just weren't willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Please see it. Please see Blame It on the Bellboy. It's worth checking out.
Bronson Pinchot is very funny, by the way. People have forgotten how funny he was. Belky Baktalis and him. And that it was wonderful. It kind of got broken at first. I think maybe it was the second Beverly Hills Cop movie. Maybe it was the first.
It was the second one.
It was the second one.
Oh wait, no.
I can't remember.
First,
But that
Beverly Hills,
humor.
it was the first Beverly Hills Cop.
Yes, I mean, literally made a career for himself.
It was Gilbert Gottfried who was in the second one.
The second one, yeah. You know, it's kind of, TV?
Yeah, let's do TV.
Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke premiered, brother, in 1955, stayed on the air until 1975.
So unbelievable.
Just absolutely unbelievable. Such a long-running show. I mean, there have been shows that have run longer since. I think right now The Simpsons is the longest-running show on television.
It is.
If I'm not mistaken.
Simpsons Simpsons may be it's the longest running show currently on television, but I think it may now be the longest running primetime show ever.
Yeah,
I think it's
I'm
beaten
thinking,
Gunsmoke.
I want to say
It's right there. It's either if it hasn't beaten it, it's a year or two away.
Well, and perhaps if we're talking about your narrative shows, because I'm almost sure Face the Nation and/or Meet the Press.
Not primetime though.
Not primetime. Primetime. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Anyway, you got Gunsmoke here, season 14, volume 2, and season 14, volume 1. You know what I like most about any of these, but particularly this, Gunsmoke, because it did in fact run so long. It's like a treasure trove of performances from young actors. You watch this show and you're just amazed. You're like, oh look, young Dennis Weaver. Oh look, young Dennis Hopper. Oh look, young William Shatner.
It's the same for all those shows from that era.
Yeah, Linda Evans, you name it, they pop up.
Here's the beef that I have with the Gunsmoke releases. They keep releasing each season in a volume 1 and 2, even though they're releasing them on the same days now.
Oh.
They won't release them in the same. They won't just do the whole season.
They want you. They want you to
They still won't do that.
That was back when they would do 30 episodes.
Yeah. But do you know when they released the first season of Gunsmoke on DVD?
No.
2007, 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
They are taking as long to release. No, I'm not kidding. They're taking as long to release Gunsmoke on DVD as it took for the show to run. Just stop that.
Just release the
Just release the whole thing, man. Come
I don't
on.
know who you think you're teasing.
I don't think Viacom's bottom line is being bolstered by the releases of Gunsmoke on DVD.
Oh, that's amazing.
Come on.
The complete 12-part anthology series, short-lived anthology series Chillers, was hosted by Anthony Perkins.
I remember this.
Yeah, it was okay. The little thing that happened in the 80s. You know, sort of wanting to be a Twilight Zone-y, Outer Limity kind of thing. Didn't quite make it. But a few interesting things, including one adaptation of the series itself is based on adaptation of Patricia Highsmith's Strangers on a Train, The Talented Mr. Ripley, and all of these kind of stories. Ian McShane, Tuesday Well, Ian Holm, Bill Nighy pops up in some of these, Ian Richardson. So interesting cast in this sort of, fairly watchable little television series here at Chillers. Not a lot of special features on that, unfortunately.
I'm going to hit up here Acorn's Single-Handed, The Complete Collection, which is an absolutely terrific show. There are a lot of the British shows that we always see. The police dramas are typically London. Occasionally, they'll go kind of into the countryside, and we'll get something. The cops murder in the in the countryside. There's a few of those. What I really really like about Single-Handed is that it's Irish. And that's a whole different world in the UK. We tend to associate Ireland with England, much to the chagrin of the Irish. Yeah. And we forget just how culturally different it is. And this is really, it's quite intense. It's It's really, really well written, and it's great. And it all, it's all just the net. Look, Dublin is its own kind of hellhole. Yeah. London has its hellholes. You go through some
East End,
but Dublin is a whole different deal, and that's what this gets into, and it's really really good. The actor here, Owen McDonnell, plays Sergeant Jack Driscoll, and he's the guy that this all kind of centers around, and it's just this is a guy who comes from a small town, and now he's immersed in this horrible world of urban crime, and it's so well done. It's just so well acted and so well put together. It's a great show. It's kind of this is what UK area, Irish and UK television needs to be. Single-Handed, the complete collection, really really good.
The Dick Cavett Show. One of my favorite things in the world is the Dick Cavett Show from any era and any network. Dick Cavett popped up on PBS and ABC and some other networks. And his shows were always just so erudite because he was so erudite. This is a particularly great collection here. They put together 4 extraordinary comedic talents, sparring 3, I should say, sparring back and forth with Dick Cavett, George Carlin, Martin Mull, and Steve Martin. Appearances on the Dick Cavett Show. You just can't. I mean, you just can't do any better than that.
The great thing too about Cavett was that he a lot of hosts, Johnny Carson among them, and this is not a slight against them, but they would let the comics on and they'd let them just roll.
Yeah,
like when you saw Robin Williams on Carson, you knew it was just going to be Carson sitting there watching Williams do a performance.
Yeah, he became the audience.
He became the audience. Dick Cavett never quite let them get away with that.
Yeah,
he wanted to find out what made him tick.
Yeah,
what's your deal? And he'd somehow get them to open up in ways that they normally wouldn't for anyone else.
Yeah,
and that was a gift.
And then when they started talking about something interesting, he would in fact let them talk.
Yeah.
So Inside the Mind of Dick Cavett, Volume 2. This particular one, George Carlin, Martin Mull, and Steve Martin. Fantastic.
The Woman in White, a PBS British drama. This is based on the very, very famous mystery novel by Wilkie Collins, which has been done before, I believe, but not quite so thoroughly. This is like 4.5 hours long, and is pretty much a straight adaptation of the novel, which is this great Victorian kind of a thriller, is the only way to put it. It's a Victorian thriller, and it all deals with this woman in particular, the title woman, the Woman in White. And if you've never read it, if you've never seen it, do yourself a favor. This was originally done for the BBC. It was shown here on PBS, and it's really, really, really well done. I almost wish they had done this as a feature film. But what a cast! Carrie Fox, Art Malik, Ben Hardy. It's terrific. Charles Dance even shows up a little bit. It's really wonderful.
Two interesting television series here. Humans. I started watching this and sort of fell off it, and then I went back to it for the second season. This is series 3 here, uncut UK edition of Humans. The sort of psychopolitical sci-fi allegory that's going on in this series is basically this. In the not too distant future, synthetic humans have been created. There comes a moment when these synthetic humans gain consciousness, undeniable consciousness, and the humans, particularly the humans who have created them and used them for all kinds of things, start to feel really odd about that. And eventually they start to not like that, and they start to distrust the sense by the time we get to series 3 here.
Yeah.
Really some interesting sort of, and these questions have been posed in sci-fi before. Asimov and others have posed these sort of questions, but I find it all quite fascinating. And it works really well. I rather enjoyed this show. This is season 3. Bonus material includes some behind-the-scenes featurettes. Jim Carrey, season 1 of Jim Carrey's very interesting show, Kidding. In this series, Jim Carrey plays a sort of.
This thing got really mixed reviews.
It got mixed reviews. I watched several of them. It was a little depressing to begin with, but I could kind of see what was going on there. Jim is playing this guy who's the host of a children's show, a 30-year host of a children's show. Think of a Mr. Rogers type character.
Oh, not Death to Smoochie?
Wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be better? That'd be so much better. And his actual home life starts to unravel. His wife, his child, all of that. The thing of it is, he really has his entire life been as optimistic an individual as he has been playing on that show. And now that optimism isn't working in his actual life, and it causes him to question a number of things. The wonderful Judy Greer and Catherine Keener pop up in the show, directed mostly by Michel Gondry, which of course Jim did the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, whom Jim did the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind with a number of years ago. So you can kind of see where they would sort of overlap on this. And this is a very Michel Gondry sort of take on life, that sort of French dark take on things. So it's a dark comedy. But it lightens up a little bit if you hang in there for a while, and actually becomes rather funny too. Let me pop down here to Jamestown. This was an interesting series.
Oh boy, I gave this first season all my due attention, and then I couldn't push anymore.
Well, seasons 1 and 2. And what happened to Jamestown is the big question of the thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, they fabricate an awful lot.
Oh,
I mean, it's all,
for one thing, we don't know what happened to Jamestown, so you have to fabricate a lot.
But the thing is, it starts in a really interesting way, and they really if you're a history buff like I am, and they get into the male female relationships there. It's mostly about the women who came to Jamestown looking for husbands, and it's a bunch of men who've been without women. So you have this obvious sexual tension, and then the guy who gets this wife, she wants the other guy. They're all mismatched, right? Everybody wants somebody else, and then the woman who marries the wealthy guy, she becomes like a political mover and shaker. She starts telling him what she wants him to do so that he can move up the ladder, and he thinks it's all his idea, but she's the one with the power in Jamestown. It's all this stuff. And then it was about midway through that first season that this occurred to me. This damn thing's Dynasty. There it is.
It is.
It's a dirty version of Dynasty.
Dynasty set in 1619.
That's it.
For 12 years, for 12 years, there were only men. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Jamestown. From the makers of Downton Abbey, though. Interesting.
Well, yeah.
But some of the producers of Downton Abbey. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Julian isn't involved.
No, Julian Fellows had nothing to do with this. I'm really what happened to his new series? He's got a new series on the Gilded Age. It's supposed to be premiering on NBC. I thought it was going to be premiering this last year, but maybe it's later this year.
Maybe it got bumped a little bit further.
Because he writes every episode.
Yeah,
that's the thing. There's no writing staff.
Man,
it's kind of amazing.
Let's see, where are we?
800
words. Season 3, part 2. Season 3, part 2. Another interesting sort of family-oriented series from Acorn TV. Look, this is good family drama type stuff. It reminds me of a lot of stuff that used to pop up on television in the 80s on network television shows like Family, and 8 is Enough, and Five, Party of Five, all of that kind of stuff. In the context of the show. But it's fairly decent stuff. Set in Australia, it just happens to be set in Australia. 8 episodes, 2 discs sets, not a whole lot of special features, but if you're into Australian family dramas, 800 words will get you there. Season 3, part 2.
Also, all 9 seasons of The Game, which I never really watched when it was on TV originally.
Me neither.
Paramount show for CBS. And
it blows me where that show was on for 9 seasons.
See, that's the thing. It freaks me out that how some of these shows just hang around for a decade, and I'm not even remotely aware of them. Like if somebody had said to me, you heard of The Game? Yeah, I've heard of The Game. It's the second season? No, it's 9th season. It's like, wait a minute. How is that even possible?
Yeah. Well, sometimes these shows exist. I mean, when they were all on network television, it was impossible to miss them. But if something's over on Showtime, or Stars, or HBO, or wherever, and it's not in that block niche of programming that you watch on, you will lose it completely. This
is nothing but a soap. Remember how? Okay, we just said that was Dynasty set in the 17th century in Jamestown.
Yeah. This
is Dynasty set in the world of professional football.
Yeah, and with their wives and all that kind of stuff.
That's all it is.
Look, Mara Braca Akil built herself a career out of this, and that's kind of great. But other than that, that's not a show.
Yeah, it's not. Well, anyway, it's got all kinds of special features. If you're a fan of the show, you're not going to care what it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess just a few anime things here. Let me blow through some of this. Made in Japan, the Made in Japan line library has a bunch of great stuff that just came out recently through Funimation. This is really wacky youth-oriented comedy, but Den-Noh Coil. That's DEN-NOH and then Coil, COIL. Complete collection. It's cute. It's a little bit cloying, but it has a lot to say in a strangely wacky way about modern digital technology. And this is about this girl who has these glasses, these like digital goggles, right? And this is all about the world that she sees versus the world that she lives in. And and it gets into like these kids who are, they're hackers, and it really has a lot. It's quite interesting what the comments it makes. It's kind of all couched in sort of wacky, youth-oriented Japanese digital youth culture, but it's got stuff in it that's much more wise and sound than that. Goes a little deeper. A little more adult is Human Crossing, the complete collection. This is standard definition on Blu-ray. They go out of their way to make sure that they point that out, and it kind of looks like it. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but it's not the it's not the best. It's kind of it's very strange. Anyway, it's one disc, 13 episodes, and gosh, I really wish they had done something better with the imaging in this. It's because otherwise the artwork is very, very sharp, and this is also kind of a I want to say it's a little bit like Babel, the movie Babel. Yeah. It looks at all of these interconnected lives in Tokyo. And it's kind of this elaborate tapestry and collage of modern life, and what Tokyo and how Tokyo ties people together and tears them apart. It's very unusual for animation, but it's really quite well done, and it's based on this very famous manga. And if it looked better, I would really highly recommend it. As it is, it's kind of with reservations. Also, standard definition on Blu-ray. And I don't know why they do this, but they do. So it's a made in Japan thing. Are these two? I'm a little bit less enthused by. Shabungle, Xabungle. This is a 50 episode plus a movie thing that doesn't really. It's a very unusual anime. It's robot oriented. It's like kind of Transformers, giant robot, get to robo oriented. It's that world. Takes place on the planet Zola, and this very elaborate universe that's written for this planet, and focuses on this crime, this particular crime, in this one character's family, and it's like a kind of a precursor in some ways to a lot of the space operas that have come since in Japanese anime, but it's odd. It's definitely kind of on the fringe. This one's a little better. Hataraki Man, Hataraki. Really, really inventive animation. Also does not look anime-like, but it's really, really, really well animated. This is all in the publishing industry, from the point of view of a woman, and it's got a lot of social commentary in it, like all the rest of these made in Japan things. It's quite interesting. You realize that much of what's going on if you're a woman in Japan is the same thing that's going on if you're a woman in the United States or anywhere else. And then a terrific boxed set of Patlabor, the movies in the OVA series and the original television series. Patlabor, the Mobile Police. This is one of the best cyberpunk things that they've ever done in anime, and it's a wonderful, wonderful box set. And if you're a fan of Robotech or Transformers or anything, all the way back to Geta Robo and Getaiga and Space Cruiser Yamato and all the rest of it, Metropolis. Wicked City. This is right in there. This is one of those legendary. This is just one of those great anime series. So this is everything. This is the complete deal. Everything you ever want from Patlabor and the Mobile Police in one box set. It's really great. Check it out. Tim, are we? Gosh, it looks like we're about done. Should we? We've delayed this for a couple of weeks. Let's tell everybody what's out.
Miss Jane Fonda. People forget sometimes that in the early 80s, Jane Fonda, as well as still being a movie star at the time, was known as a guru of fitness. And she did all of these videos on VHS, a thing called VHS back in the day. And actually, she was quite an expert on the stuff. She looked fantastic. It kind of looked fantastic her entire life, but even well into her 40s, she was still looking great, and she was able to make a series for herself of these fitness DVDs. Fitness VHSs at the time that are now on DVD. And she would basically just work the whole body. So we have Jane Fonda's workout series here, two separate DVDs. The first one, lower body solution, abs, buns, and thighs. Jane
great.
In a perfectly flammable leotard.
And let's just be clear. We're not recommending these because we think somebody needs some exercise videos. This is sheer nostalgia indulgence.
Yeah. Jane Fonda in neon leotards exercising with a lot of... hey, but look, you know what? I'm sure they're getting a pretty good workout, too. And the Lean Routine workout series, ultimate fat-burning workout for everyone. Jane Fonda, an iconic figure. In more ways than one in her life and career. I mean, interesting. Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane. Back in the '60s, she was Hanoi Jane, right?
And then she became a workout guru.
And then after a while, she became something of a movie star again. Yeah. Jane made a few very important movies.
Such a weird career.
And then she married Ted
Turner,
and went hardcore, sort of like evangelical for a minute there. Yeah. And nice, interesting life there. Jane.
She's lived 20 lifetimes, and they're all interesting.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we are done, and hang in there. And if you're in LA, try to go to the scpr.org site and see if you can get some tickets to come and see us on the 17th at the Ace Theater downtown. We'll be with our other Film Week colleagues talking about the Oscars. It'll be a good time. Lots of clips.
It'll be better than the Oscars. I can promise you that. I promise you that. Our show will be better.